Last weekend in the UK, we had not one, but two rather big films dropping at the same time. You had Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, and you had Warfare, directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza. Now, because of Sinners being as good as it is, and trust me, it is that good, it's probably the best film of the year so far, because everyone's talking about that movie, it unfortunately meant that Warfare kind of got swept under the rug a little bit, which is a shame because I also saw it last weekend, the same weekend I saw Sinners, and I was blown away by this movie, and I wanted to do a video just on this film because I think it deserves it in its own spotlight next to Sinners. For those of you that don't know, Warfare is a recreation of a firefight that happened in 2006 in Iraq, where a bunch of US soldiers were pinned down in a house fighting for their lives as enemy forces kept converging in on their position. Now, I was excited for this film from the moment I saw the first trailer for it and the fact that I saw Alex Garland's name attached to it. I think what he did last year with Civil War was genuinely brilliant and I don't think was talked about enough. And the fact that he was making another film very soon after that in a similar vein had me really intrigued because I loved Civil War so much. I was intrigued to see what his next project would be if it went down a similar path. And the fact that he has co-directed this film with Ray Mendoza, who is an actual war veteran from the Iraq 2006 war, had me really intrigued to see how this film would play out. And straight out of the gate, I just want to say that this film is relentless. From the moment the shooting starts, it just doesn't stop ramping up the intensity until the credits roll. The film is only about an hour and 35 minutes, and I don't think it would work if it went on any longer. This is a singular moment that the film is trying to tell, and because it is a very tight, compact, singular thing, if it went any longer, I feel like it would just be telling us stuff we already know. What the film is purposefully trying to do is put you in this situation with these soldiers. Right at the start of the film, it makes it very clear that this film is exactly how these events happened based off of the memories of the people that were in this situation. And I think as soon as you read that, you know exactly what you're in for, and I think the film does a pretty good job of being as faithful to that perspective as possible. Now, bear with me when I say this, but I wouldn't go out of my way to say that this film is beautifully shot. It's well shot, don't get me wrong, it is. But unlike Sinners, where there were multiple shots that I was going, wow, that's stunning. Oh my god, wow, that's stunning. Warfare isn't going for that. It's going for realism and trying to portray this scenario as grounded as possible. And I think from that perspective, the cinematography does the job perfectly. However, where this film really shines is with its performances and its sound design. My god, the sound design in this film is incredible. It's honestly some of the best sound design I've heard in a film for a long, long time for multiple different reasons. It's definitely one of the loudest movies I've heard in quite a while as well. There were multiple points in the film where I kind of had to block one of my ears just because the sound of the movie was getting so loud and so intense. There's a couple of moments where this fighter jet flies very, very low, like borderline street level, and it is deafening. And I mean this in a good way. This isn't a criticism by any means. It's just kind of showing how effective the sound design of this movie is. There are also multiple instances throughout the film where every time it cuts to a different soldier, you are hearing their perspective along with the cut. And that's something that is kind of taken for granted with films nowadays, but because it's such a singular, self-contained thing we're witnessing, it's heightened just that bit more. There is a great example where this IED goes off, and over the course of like a good 5 to 10 minutes, you are cutting between the perspectives of the soldiers who were right in the proximity of that blast. And usually when a bomb goes off in a war film, you hear that sort of muffled sound of everything sounding not the way it should, along with a high-pitched ringing noise. And you don't really get that, at least not immediately. One soldier will hear everything as if the bass has been boosted and everything else is muffled, whereas another soldier who was a little bit further away from the blast doesn't have that bass boost, but instead has the high-pitched ringing that you just expect from an explosion. But it's something really specific that you don't really see that much in war films. It's something you expect to see in a war film, but it's done here in a very unique way that is as realistic as they can get across in the sound design, and I really appreciated that. There's also another moment later on in the film where this soldier who's got a headset on is trying to heal his comrade, but unfortunately there's like 1,000,001 different radio channels and signals coming through his headset, and the volume keeps getting increased with each channel that gets added, and then he just pulls the plug on his pack and it just cuts to silence. However, like I also said at the start, the performances do a lot of the heavy lifting as well in terms of trying to make this scenario as realistic and believable as possible whilst paying respect to the soldiers they're actually portraying. And to do so, you've got a pretty stacked cast of male actors who are all, again, working at the top of their game. You've got the likes of Will Poulter, Michael Gandolfini, Cosmo Jarvis, Kit Connor, Joseph Quinn, only to name a few. They are all giving performances that feel incredibly real and believable considering the situation that they're in. And they all just work. They work really well when they're trying to emphasize the banterous side of their unit before, shit hits the fan. That aspect works really well, especially in a rather jarring opening scene where they're just all jamming in a room to Call on Me, which, again, was incredibly loud and took me by surprise, but I'm here for it. But yeah, they work really well in those scenes that are supposed to reinforce their camaraderie and the banterous side to their unit, but they also work really well when, again, shit hits the fan and they have to kind of act on their instincts and just kind of work together to get out of this horrible situation they're in. A lot of the time when a director makes a war film, they are mostly trying to just get their creative vision across while also trying to be as faithful as they can while listening to a military supervisor. But the fact that they made the decision to bring the military supervisor from Civil War and make him the co-director of the film just gives everything a bit more weight. Mendoza, through his direction, is able to take the lead on a lot of these things and add that layer of authenticity that a lot of other war films try to do, but sort of lack in the process. There isn't that middleman of the director trying to do their own thing whilst listening to the military supervisor. Mendoza is that person. So that middleman is cut out and they can just go, right, we're not going to do this way, we're just going to do it like that because that's how it actually happened. And I think because that is the primary focus of the film and that is what Mendoza is going for, and the fact that Alex Garland isn't working against him, he's just trying to work with him to get that across, I think makes the film even better in my opinion. If you've seen Warfare, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. I'd love to have a little discussion about this film, as not many people are talking about it, or at least not as many people as I thought would be talking about it are talking about it. If you like the video, then give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.